Today's adventure takes us to Elwood, Illinois, and Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. Now, this cemetery is not very old. It's about 25 years old, but already has close to 100,000 veterans in here. It's a very humbling walk walking through this cemetery. But today I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. That of a man who had a book and movie named after him. And in the movie, he was played by Gene Hackman. I'm going to tell you his story and why he is famous. And I'm also going to show you the grave of a Civil War hero. This man went into a suicide mission in the Civil War, survived, and then became a hero. He is buried in this cemetery. Obviously not initially buried in the cemetery, but he was dug up and buried in the cemetery when it opened in 1999. So come join me as we explore Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. Good morning, everyone. Today I am at Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery here in Wilmington, Illinois. I'm here to tell you a story. Cemetery is very amazing and humbling. Cemetery isn't that old. I believe it was built around 2000, but there's already nearly 100,000 graves in this cemetery. Just amazing. But I'm here to tell you a story today. A story of Lieutenant Colonel Iceal Eugene Hambleton. Now you may be like, well, who's that? Most people probably have not heard of this man. Well, if you've ever heard of the 1980 book called Bat 21, or maybe the 1988 movie of the same name, where this man was played by Gene Hackman, then you may be a little familiar with him. But today I'm going to tell you his story, and we're going to find his grave. Hambleton was a U.S. Air Force navigator who, on April 2nd, 1972, was a navigator on board an EB-66 destroyer aircraft, call sign Bat 21, along with another EB-66 aircraft, call sign Bat 20, whose mission that day was to escort 3 B-52 bombers tasked with attacking entrance passes to the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Just north of the DMZ, they were taking on some heavy anti-aircraft and surface-to-air missile activity. The People's Army of Vietnam fired 2 SAMs, surface-to-air missiles, at Bat 21, only turning their guidance systems on after the missiles were launched, which delayed the aircraft's ability to detect the missiles. But when the crew did spot the missiles, the plane broke to the south, assuming the missile had been fired from the north, which was not the correct assumption. Realizing the missiles had been fired from the south, the pilot flipped the plane over on its other wing in an effort to avoid the missiles. He was not successful. First missile exploded just below the aircraft at 29,000 feet. The pilot, Major Wayne Bolt, gave the order to eject. Hambleton ejected from this aircraft. Hambleton ejected just seconds before the second missile struck the aircraft, killing the remainder of the crew. Hambleton was the only one of the crew able to eject from that aircraft. First Lieutenant Bill Jankowski and Captain Lyle Wilson were flying at a lower altitude in another aircraft. Jankowski was able to see Hambleton as he landed in a dry rice paddy. He parachuted into the middle of 30,000 Vietnamese soldiers. Hambleton was able to find refuge in a group of bushes in the middle of the rice paddy. Thus began the largest and most complex search and rescue of the entire Vietnam campaign. Now, during the 12-day rescue effort, 5 aircraft were shot down, 11 airmen were killed, and 2 were captured. Why take such risks to rescue one man? Well, Hambleton was a ballistic missiles expert with top secret clearance, and his capture by the North Vietnamese Army would have been a tremendous benefit to them and the Soviet Union at the time. Knowing that an Air Force rescue would take more lives, the decision was made to make a ground rescue instead. And here we go. Here we are. Here is Iceal Hambleton here, Lieutenant Colonel, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Silver Star. So on the 12th day, Navy SEAL Lieutenant Thomas Norris and VNN Commando Nigel Van Keet in a covert nighttime operation would rescue Hambleton 2 miles behind enemy lines. Amazing story. Unfortunately, Hambleton would die of lung cancer on September 19, 2004. And here he is here, Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. The longest and most dangerous rescue mission during the Vietnam War. And this man was the center of it. He's the focus of the book Bat 21, and also played by Gene Hackman in the movie of the same name back in 1988. Kind of a neat story. Look at all of these military personnel buried here. I mean, this is just one small section of many sections. Again, humbling. Thank you all for your service. And that is the story of Lieutenant Colonel Iceal Eugene Hambleton. Okay, I got a story for you here at Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. This one is of Sargent George Hyatt, Civil War Medal of Honor recipient. Born in Philadelphia. He mustered in as Sergeant of Company D, 127th Illinois Voluntary Infantry on September 5th, 1862. Promoted to first sergeant on March 10th, 1863. Participated in the spring-summer 1863 Vicksburg campaign, where he is awarded the CMOH for his bravery in combat on May 22nd, 1863. And that day, 150 men were called to volunteer to make a forlorn hope diversionary charge on the Confederate position near Vicksburg. And here is Sergeant Hyatt, one of the first Medal of Honor recipients, First Sergeant, Company D. So that charge was to draw fire away from the real planned attack, and a charge no one was expected to return from. And because of that, only unmarried men were accepted as volunteers. This was a suicide mission. Supposed to be a suicide mission. After charging an open plain in full view of the Confederates, the withering fire was such that most of the volunteers were cut down, and the most that made it through the fire sought shelter in a ravine under the Redan. There they stayed and fought until night fell. When the survivors made their way back to the Union lines, 1st Sargent Hyatt being one of them, he would go on to fight in the 1864 campaign to capture Atlanta, Georgia. He was shot in the left foot in 1864, August 3rd, 1864, and was permanently crippled. After a long convalescence, he was honorably discharged due to his disability on March 10th, 1865. After the war, he returned to Illinois, where he entered the Baptist ministry and spent time as a missioner in Texas and in the Indiana Territory. In Texas and in the Indian Territory. He was awarded the medal on July 9th, 1894, 31 years after his brave act. He was originally in Lockport Cemetery in Lockport, Illinois, and his remains were removed and buried here in Abraham Lincoln Cemetery after it first opened in 1999. And here is where Medal of Honor recipient Sargent George Theodore Hyatt survived a suicide mission, what was supposed to be a suicide mission, where 85% of the soldiers died. Thank you, sir, for your service. And as I look here, there is some kind of ceremony that is taking place. I don't know what it is. They're setting up for a ceremony, for sure. You can see the gathering of people there. Very busy today here at Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on this walk today. And thank you to all the veterans who fought for this country that are buried here in this cemetery. Hope you enjoyed the video today. It was very humbling for me, that's for sure. And as always, until next time, keep exploring.